Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Today let's talk about the mass lockdowns in China and how are they related to the protests and dissatisfaction of the Chinese people with their government. What they're doing is using the CCP virus pandemic as an excuse to restrict the people's freedom of movement within the areas where they want to maintain stability. And this word stability maintenance, or Weiwen in Mandarin, actually means brutally putting down all the protest activities. A country that couldn't suppress the outbreak of the virus from the beginning has continuously been using the methods of virus prevention that have only been causing mass infections, lockdowns that only cause hysteria among the public and panic buying. And yeah, don't forget the recent mass testing of the people for the coronavirus, where the social distancing was just inexistent. But on July 21st, Xi Jinping said, in regards to Henan floods and the disaster relief operations, that the country should prevent the great pandemic after the great flood from happening. Wow, it was almost a prophecy, as right after his speech, the virus outbreak actually happened in Zhengzhou. And there also was a case of group infection in the hospital after about a week or so, when the flood was over and the city was cleared from debris. The Zhengzhou City Epidemic Prevention and Control Leading Group Office issued a statement on July 31st. In addition to the so-called closed-loop management that had to be implemented in the 6th People's Hospital, all the people who had plans to leave Zhengzhou City had to have a PCR test conducted 48 hours before they left. Gatherings of the people were to be minimized. Non-essential group meetings were to be stopped, and all the mass gatherings cancelled. All of these measures really make me doubt if it all was done for the larger purpose of stability maintenance. It's possible that the CCP was testing the waters to decide the propaganda direction. Look, there was a warning directed at the bottom level officials in the affected area close to Jingguan Road tunnel. Yes, that's the tunnel that was fully submerged during the floods. The warning said, it is recommended that the district office send staff to the streets to visit stores close to the affected area, remind the majority of merchants to be vigilant, and not accept any foreign media interviews without permission, not give the media any possibility of distorting the facts or taking them out of context. Promptly report to the district office if relevant information is found. Pay attention to how you conduct your duties. Don't use SMS or WeChat to notify the public. Contact the people face to face instead. You can also find some other proofs on the Chinese internet. There were internet users posting similar information. You can find the messages of the following content. Currently, many foreign media outlets are interviewing the public close to the Jingguan Road tunnel. In view of the sensitive topic of the Jingguan Road tunnel flooding, it is easy to attract high attention from international public. Remind the general public to be vigilant, and not to accept interviews with the foreign media privately, and not to give them any opportunity of distorting facts or taking them out of context. If relevant situations are discovered, promptly report back to the district office or directly report to the police. We're united, and the hard-won results of the disaster relief should not be taken out of context by foreign media reporters with ulterior motives and smeared by them. Protect Zhengzhou, protect Henan, protect the motherland, start from yourself. If you take a closer look at Chinese social media, you'll also find many posts accusing the BBC in fabricating evidence and spreading rumors. Even the Taiwanese media that reported on the floods in China are under constant attack from the Chinese internet trolls. All the reports by the Taiwanese media are negative. Take a look at the word they're using for Taiwan here. It's Wanwan. It actually is a scornful way to describe Taiwan in Taiwanese. They also say that the Taiwanese media outlets are interpreting the events in such a way to make China look bad, and they use the Henan citizens' kindness for their benefit. Well, of course, they can say that the Henan people are being used by the Taiwanese media as many times as they want, but this won't change the fact that the media in Taiwan only want to deliver some objective reporting. Well, this pandemic lasted for more than a year already, and if you followed the CCP during this year, and if you follow their attitudes to pandemic prevention and the measures that they have implemented, you'll realize that in reality the CCP doesn't care about the infection rates. It doesn't care about the new virus strains. But once there is a reason for suppression of dissent, or once there is any kind of pressure to the Communist Party, or when the people are rising against the incapable government, the CCP all of a sudden says that there is a new outbreak and implement lockdowns to restrict people's movement, not letting those people on the streets. And once the problem is solved and the issue is not being discussed anymore, they start detaining those people who initiated the protests. For example, the number of the new daily cases in Zhengzhou was higher than 100. Epidemic hotline received a lot of calls, but the ordinary citizens said that they don't care for the reason of the pandemic, just want their lives to return to normality. Just take a look. On May 31st, the CCP announced the Delta variant of the virus appeared in Guangdong province. Both Shenzhen and Dongguan reported that there were confirmed cases. On June 19th, both places announced that people should should not leave the cities if not necessary. If anyone has to leave the city, he/she must have a green QR code and a certificate of negative PCR test made within 48 hours, therefore making it very hard for the people to leave the cities. Well, this also might be related to the anniversary of anti-extradition law protests in Hong Kong on June 12th. Remember, how did the protesters in Hong Kong say, "Be water"?
Be water, my friend.
The CCP was afraid that the same strategy might be implemented by the protesters in mainland China. According to the reports by the Hong Kong media, the CCP sent more than 1,000 police officers to Wan Chai and Causeway Bay that day to prevent any protest from happening. Why is June 12th also crucial? It's because on June 11th, Agnes Chow, one of the faces of the Hong Kong protest, finished her time in prison. The CCP sent the armed police to Hong Kong mostly to scare the Hong Kong citizens, not let them take on the streets, create panic amongst the people dissatisfied with the government. So we can see that the main goal of the CCP is to maintain stability, not let any protest to happen. There is another example. You probably remember one of my videos where I've been talking about the CCP being not happy with too many students choosing humanities. I explained that the reason for that is not only related to a higher demand in science students, but there is a rather more complicated motivation. And this year, after the Tiananmen massacre anniversary, there were student protests all across China due to merging of the independent colleges with vocational schools. The conflicts with public security were bloody. Most of the protests happened in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Shandong, Nanjing, Shanxi, and other provinces. As the CCP is merging the independent colleges with vocational schools, meaning that the students won't have a university degree, but a vocational school degree instead. You know how competitive China is. It's not easy to enter university, much harder than entering a vocational school. So they study for 4 years, have to pay a lot in their education fees, but once their school becomes just a vocational school, firstly, it will be harder to apply to a master's degree, and secondly, it will not be possible for them to take part in exams for public office positions that require a university degree. And they're going to enter a very competitive job market, as their school is no longer a university. It's a very big obstacle in getting a good position for an adequate salary. Just imagine, a university you spend so much time and effort to get into becomes a vocational school all of a sudden. Of course you'll be angry. Therefore, the university students launched protests all across the country to defend their rights. You know, what the CCP fears most is the student movement, so the public security did everything to stop the students. Those protests were brutally suppressed. What's interesting, recently Nanjing and some other cities in Jiangsu province all reported the virus outbreak. Of course, brutal lockdowns followed. It feels as the CCP is simply trying to prevent the people to talk about the CCP's education policies, as well as floods, and take on the streets in protest. So they use the new variant of coronavirus as an excuse to lock the people up and restrict the movement of the people in those areas. The CCP is also doing everything to control how the Chinese people think, especially the young people. They're training the Chinese youth to become the new Red Guards. The latest news is that in Shanghai elementary schools, there won't be English exams anymore, but all the elementary school students, as well as junior high school students, will have to take the Xi Jinping thought course as mandatory. To fully brainwash this generation of Chinese, they'll need to spend from 5 to 10 years. In future, even if a biblical great flood happens in China and half of the country will be submerged in water, the Chinese youth will think that it's all just foreign propaganda. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe, and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye.